How's it going, everybody? RazingHel here, and today's video is just going to be a bit of a ramble, I guess you could say, about who this channel is for, the channel that I have here on YouTube. And this is mostly because I've been busy these last few days trying to get together the parts that I need to actually build a new NAS. So a NAS stands for Network Attached Storage, and I'm planning on using the free NAS free BSD operating system, and I'm going to install that on there, and that's where I'm going to be storing a lot of the content that I have, you know, because I do keep backups of every video that I make. So I haven't had a lot of time to make other videos and stuff because I've been focusing on that a lot, but recently, you know, there have been a couple of things where people came into my community and they seemed, they were disappointed in what they found. Apparently what I offered was not what they expected, and then they rage quit out, making very sure that I knew how disappointed they were in what they found here. So a lot of the, what encouraged me to start my YouTube channel to begin with was the fact that I had knowledge about a game. In this case, it was Stronghold Kingdoms, that I had built up over multiple years that just was going to leave when I left the game, when I left the scene and no longer provided, you know, answers and stuff to other people who were joining that community, who were new to it. And so I thought, well, I could make videos and try to document the most important things that I learned. And that's how I started. That's how I got my start. That's how I started out. And one of the things that I've always valued is the quest for knowledge, I guess you could say. The idea that, you know, whenever you come out of a situation, whether it's good or bad, that you've learned something from it. Can you write a summary based on that most recent experience that you had? And could you say, this is how my opinion on a certain subject has changed, or this is how I would behave in the future if I was confronted with the same situation? I think that's very valuable. So I've always been somebody who focused a lot more on the learning side of things, even if it's like a process of learning, not necessarily being the best right away, but you get to see that gradual improvement. Another thing that I've always focused on was this idea to be as professional as I possibly could. So you'll see this manifest itself in a lot of my videos. There, in general, is not a lot of innuendo or swearing in it. I do use some stronger language. It's very minimal though. So it's by many accounts, I think it could be considered all ages. I kind of throw a large net, I guess you could say. There's really nobody who's being restricted out of my community because of language. And this is actually this idea of being professional, because at the heart of it, you know, it's not necessarily like professional, but like business-like. You know, you treat things like a business, and I think that's something not enough people on YouTube value. Is like they see YouTube and they see the way things were on YouTube, and they don't understand that the platform changes and it's bringing in more business type interests, and those business type interests have very different values from what the core culture that was built up on YouTube was about. And it's fine that they don't like the direction things are taking. Like, a lot of people feel disenfranchised when an entire culture shifts. But it turns out I was in the right position in my approach to it, and that was to be as professional as I possibly could in how I handled things. But at the same time, there was also a message for other types of people. So in my day-to-day life, I'm generally a reserved person. I might speak a lot here on my channel itself, but, you know, most of the time I do not go out of my way to comment on things online or offline. Most of the time I keep my opinions to myself and whatnot, and that has been rather foundational, I think, in keeping me from making really from saying or expressing really stupid or naive opinions. I see a lot of people who who think they understand it all, who at a very young age think they know everything there is to know about a certain topic, which is why I try to avoid making any sort of comprehensive knowledge claim on a subject. So that's one of the reasons why I avoid politics, and that's the reason that I keep politics out of my community at the greatest extent possible. Like, if you look at my Discord server, you know, there have been people in there who do try to introduce politics into it, and we let them know that there is a time and a place for that, but this community is mostly about gaming and maybe sharing some other in real life experiences with like-minded people who enjoy a more chilled out and relaxed and professional, maybe mature. When I say mature, like, I don't mean it in the R-rated sense, but right, where these people are older. They're not going to behave as childishly. And that's not to say that people who are younger cannot be a part of this community by any means, but in general, if you're the type who's a spammer, who's loud, who's asking for attention all the time, like, those are things that don't blend quite as well with the community, and especially with me. In general, like, I value people who value their time. Like, I think time is one of the most precious resources that we have, and if other people don't value my time, time, I do not want to know them really. And I see a lot of people who waste their time posting things that in the grand scheme of things are very inconsequential. They're like the spammers. There's so much white noise out there where people really don't take time to think about the value that they're pitching and what they're saying. They're just talking to talk, and it's okay. There are different types of people, but that's generally that's not my audience, or that's not the audience I target, because that's not the type of person that I am. And when I make videos and stuff, I'm generally targeting me. I'm creating videos that I would watch myself, that I would be interested in watching myself, because I know a lot about what I look for when I'm watching a video. So when it came to creating like the Discord community for the YouTube channel, there were like a few core concepts, and that was that, you know, be polite to other people. Too many times I've seen the conversation dominated by like the rudest and loudest and most obnoxious people in the room, and I've been in other Discord servers, and that was continually a problem, and it's a problem that I still struggle with. It's how do you create an environment where people who aren't just vicious, who aren't hawks, can thrive and feel like contributing to it, because too much of the time what happens is that you will get these very aggressive people in these communities, these very loud, very egotistical people, and they will talk over everybody else. They will shut them down at every given opportunity, and that chases those off. And eventually what you do is you have this many times toxic community of hawks who are constantly putting each other down, belittling each other, and just going out of their way to attack. Like they're constantly vying for the top spot, and that was something that I'm not interested in being around. And that was like one of the things that I wanted to stay away from when I created my Discord. And it does result in you having to put your foot down sometimes and be mean in return to those hawks, to be hawkish to the hawks. Like this operates on the like the economic principle of hawks and doves. And how do you tailor your economic policy, right? Hawks and doves basically comes down to, do you compete or cooperate? And I'm much more on the cooperate side rather than the compete. But generally the people who compete can chase off the people who will cooperate, because every time a person who cooperates interacts with somebody who competes, they're always being put down. They're always they're always beaten, basically, because they give more. They're too altruistic, and they cannot survive because they're giving to people who want to take from them and to make themselves bigger. That's like a summed up version of it. But in general, the idea was that the community that I was trying to build, the people I was trying to target in general, are people who value their time. They don't waste their time on just saying nothing, I guess. Try to pitch value. That's pretty important. They're also polite or very professional type people who in general can express thoughts and opinions without needing to get down in the gutters with the terminology used. You know, you can use higher level language to express very similar concepts. You don't have to be dropping swear words and strong language, you know, in every sentence. That was something that bothered me. It's like, I don't mind the one-off. Like, it should be emotional when somebody says something. When somebody uses strong language, the idea behind it is that it conveys how emotional that person is about that certain topic. And just by dropping that type of language in every single sentence, it's like the loudness war when it came to audio. It raises the level of everything. Everything is extreme, and when everything is extreme, nothing is. So yeah, in general, the people who are in my community that I want to interact with and stuff, they're generally more professional about how they conduct themselves, and they give more thought as to the words that they use to express the ideas that they have. Lastly, they're about cooperation and learning together. So in other words, this is not an ego trip for any one person. We're not in it for glory or anything like that. I really dislike it when people try to make it about subscribers, viewers, all that kind of stuff. That really annoys me. I don't pay attention to my metrics at all. The only reason I know the metrics that I do know is generally because other people tell me. I'm not somebody who's looking for popularity. In general, it's really been difficult for me to deal with a growing community, even though I do my best to pitch value, and that's kind of the idea behind what can grow a community is being able to pitch value. But like, I've struggled with that myself, and I really dislike people who enter the room and they're all about me. I'm so great. I'm so awesome. You should, yeah, just no, that's not what we're about. We're about helping people, you know, teaching people, that kind of thing. We're about creating a community that is supportive of one another. It has less to do with the best of the best. Like, I don't really care about that. And I think in the long term, a lot of people will see that the cooperative strategy is much more viable than the competitive one. There are perks to the competitive side, but like, if you were a betting person, you would have better odds betting on cooperation over competition. So if you're somebody who's a little bit more mathematically inclined, there's actual math behind why you should behave in this certain way and why I think it's the smartest way to behave in society. But it's really up to you. I hope that this video can sort of clear up what this community is about and whether or not you think you belong in it, because that's another thing, another point that I try to make very clear to people. Some people do not belong in my community, and that's fine. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. You know, there's a time and a place for everything, and I believe the same thing applies to people as well. And maybe this channel is not for you, and that's okay. But maybe it is, and that would be great. So yeah, hopefully we'll get back to more of the regular stuff pretty soon in terms of the videos that I'm making, but I'm also kind of interested in maybe doing something to demonstrate me setting up a free NAS, because this is something that I've never done before, and it's like the next step, taking the step after, oh, you've built your own computer, now build your own network attached storage in a server case. It's a little bit more advanced, for sure, and there aren't as many people covering on YouTube anyway. There aren't as many people covering those kind of topics. So I might do some videos on that, I'm not sure, but yeah, we'll be getting back to the games as well, of course. Yeah, so I hope that cleared some stuff up. Thank you very much for watching as always, and hope to see you next time.